Hello and welcome back to the PLP. It's been a bit of a truncated week with the international break, which we're just now coming out the other side of. Well, that being said, I'm pretty sure the 8 in front of you here are going to have lost a fair few players for today's midweek games. Simply we've run out of time, or FM has run out of time to squeeze in everyone's fixtures, so they've just gone sod it, you can play during the international break with whoever you've got left. Before Saturday then, when we've got sort of a full fixture rundown back. So yeah, I'm going to dive back in. It's just League 2 in action. Everyone else is still enjoying that international relaxation. And one team that definitely can't relax between now and the end of the season is poor Dan City Y. Not a lot to play for across the rest of the year, and yet thrown into action basically every other day for the next five weeks or so. That being said, he had a good result the other day. I mean, he was 3-1 up against Buston Villa, playoff hunting Buston Villa. Got sort of lassoed back in and ended up with just the point. But that has somewhat derailed Buston's playoff hopes. So, he might just be a spoiler between now and the end of the year. And the next person in his lens is title chasing Hart Chamberlain, who looked dead set not just to get the playoffs, not just to get promoted, but to actually win the league, to be honest. But it's games like this that he's kind of seen off comfortably so far, Lawrence. And that has got to be the worst half of football we've seen this season. To be honest, I think Lawrence would take, if he draws the rest of his away games and wins the rest of his home games, he'll be home and hosed quite comfortably. Dan City Y's only remaining sort of pressure moments, I guess, will come in the Europa League, which he's still active in. I think he's up against Shakhtar Donetsk, so squeezing into his schedule is a nice round trip to Ukraine. I mean, just to give an idea of Wyman's schedule, I mean, I know I've talked a lot about Louise, and I think my own is pretty bad, but Wyman's is off the charts. I don't even know if it's possible. So he's got a game every 2 or 3 days, consistently now until the end of April. From the 11th of April, he then plays on the 11th, 13th, 15th, 17th, 19th, 21st, 23rd, 25th, and 27th. The 27th is 2 days after the League 2 season officially finishes. He's already been squeezed in afterwards. And that's if he doesn't get through into the semi-finals of the Europa League. If he makes more progress there, I don't even know when they'll fit the games in. He might just literally have to play every day. But that final run-in is 9 games in 18 days. I'm not entirely sure this is what Louis van Gaal signed up for when he joined the club last summer. But to be fair to him, it's twice in the last 3 days that, or 4 or 5 days actually, sorry, that he's, no, it was Monday, yeah, so twice in 3 days. But he's taken a point against a team that's been outperforming him this season, so well done, mate. Carrying a little bit of form into that European venture. No big dramas for Lawrence, I wouldn't say at this stage. Still got plenty in hand. Two more teams with attentions probably turned elsewhere as we edge towards the end of the season. Leeds UniTodd, technically within reach of the playoffs, although I suppose you could say the same for Cal because he's got 2 games in hand. They'd have to have one hell of a momentum shift between now and the end of the year to make that happen. in all likelihood, Leeds United are focusing on their EFL Trophy final coming up. They're Kings of the North. They'll be taking on League One's Full of Strangenham at Wembley at some point in the coming weeks. Down City Cow, meanwhile, have made it through to the FA Cup semi-finals, so definite chance to end the season in style and be involved in finals day over the summer. Just for any newcomers or random YouTube strangers, we stop the season on the it'll be the 27th of April because of Wyman and the like. Goal. Put a pause on it all, and then come back in June over the draft weekend, where before the draft we'll do the playoffs, the FA Cup final, any European finals that have drafter involvement. Just have a big festival, basically. Has been made a bit tricky because the NLP finishes about a week or so before League 1 and League 2, and actually their playoffs get underway before League 1 and 2 even finish. So it might be that we have to do the first round of those NLP playoffs. What a hit. Just as a sort of highlights package before the pause. But then we'll pick up at the semi-final stage, as we will with Leagues 1 and 2 as well. Not sure what Julio Cesar's doing. Calver's waited a long time to get him back between the sticks. He seems to have forgotten where his sticks are, unfortunately. It's to be offside. So Leeds United, one of the better teams in League 2, and probably therefore one of the most frustrating. Like, they've dispatched everyone in the EFL Trophy. Had another good cup run, either in the Carabao or the FA Cup as well, where they've beaten League 1 teams more than once. They do this quite regularly as well to anyone, but then they'll just pick up some odd results elsewhere and just go on these barren runs for a month or so, which means they just can't really get into the playoff picture at the end of the season. Down City Cow, meanwhile, they had a really good start to the year. They were actually front running for the first couple of months. Just fallen off a cliff since then. It's only just dawned on me, I think the international break technically does end on the Thursday, which is the day these games are being played on. Pretty sure everyone's basically just got off a flight and immediately jumped on the pitch, because there's no way the likes of Van Persie, Pogba, even Anelka, Forlan weren't turning out for their countries. Bear in mind, two of Alex's 3 scorers have been Brazilian. A mighty week with jet lag. Vieira, another one, definitely will have been playing for France. Reece James for England, I imagine. So either they've ducked out of international duty for this vital game. Martinelli, fair play. Probably hasn't gone out with the Brazil squad. Just been honing his technique in front of goal instead. After these two all-drafter clashes, there are 2 more games featuring myself and Louis up against non-draft opposition. I've got Man Utd C, and it's escaped me who Louis got. I think it's Barnsley, actually. Which in theory, they actually carry a bit more pressure. So if you lose to draft opposition, it's not unexpected. Those other games are ones we both absolutely have to win if we want to keep up our promotion challenges. Ryan Giggs only just come on. He's another you have expected would have been playing for Wales, along with Gary Speed, who's just come on. Surely if they're fit enough, not to sound too much like Roy Keane, if they're fit enough to be there, they're fit enough to play. Emery, a bit of a head scramble after what's been a tricky few months. Very much turning attention solely to the FA Cup at this stage. Alex, meanwhile, keeping those faint playoff hopes alive. Now, in theory, this is the easiest game any of us can play all season. Which begs the question why De Zerbi has gone so aggressive with his lineup, considering the schedule he's facing over the coming weeks. I'd have thought a bit of healthy rotation wouldn't have gone amiss. Barnsley have only picked up 2 wins all season, 9 points all season. Louis, pretty fine fettle. He's risking a few heavyweights. I guess just wants to get those points on the board as quickly as possible. I suppose the difference between my situation and Louis is that automatic's pretty much out of the question for me. It would take one hell of a final run of games. So I can just try and get in the playoffs, and then anything can happen. Louis, I'd say, is looking pretty good for the playoffs, unless he has a pretty big disaster with his games in hand. But he's got a genuine chance to enter the automatic equation. And just like Wyman, his ridiculous schedule is made worse by ongoing European involvement. He's still going in the Conference League. I can't even remember who he's playing in the final 8. But again, he's facing a very similar situation where it's pretty much every other day, certainly once we get into April. And just like the other games we've watched so far, I can't believe that Mahrez wasn't playing for Algeria, probably yesterday. Straight off a plane, straight on the score sheet. His last league game, I think it was on Monday. I think about half an hour had gone and half his players were in the orange or red zone fitness-wise, which is normally a cause for concern if you've played FM. They are going to suddenly do things like that. So, I don't know how much you can flog a dead Sergio Aguero before he finally breaks. Personally, I love it because it just means we'll see loads of older Coventry legends enter the fray. We've seen Marcus Hall, Paul Telfer, Yusuf Chippo already get game time in recent weeks. Peter Unlove came on the other day. Personally, think we need to see more of Darren Huckabee and Noel Whelan. But as expected, I think he could have played himself in this game. Louis at right back, De Zerbi at left back. And they'd have been fine. Barnsley, of course, will join up with the 4 remaining drafted teams in the NLP next season, so we'll be seeing a lot more of Neil Redfern and the like. Whether they'll still be managed by Ruud Gullit at that point remains to be seen. It'll be a second consecutive relegation for Barnsley, actually. think who Barnsley started off with in terms of their manager. Danny Wilson, of course. So he got sacked after the initial relegation. De Zerbi really has thrown the full squad at Barnsley today. I did think at home to bottom of the table he's not going to get a better chance. Maybe apart from a dead rubber in the Conference League to rest some players. It's only going to get tougher from here, quite literally. It can't get any easier than this in the league. Even off the bench he's bringing on the likes of Luca Dean, whereas last week it was Marcus Hall. He's gone out all-out attack from the off. The end of the international break representing the start of the official run-in. He's gone in hard. Michael Essien, another one that probably could have done without the extra miles on his legs. Nice easy 3-0 at the end of the day though. And so we come to this. Ryan Robson's Man Utd C. It's the second time I've played them in succession. I beat them quite comfortably in the home leg. And that did put me back onto the periphery of the playoffs despite some pretty hit and miss form. But I did have some points in the bank from the first half of the season, which has kind of meant that my second half adequacy hasn't caused too much damage in terms of playoff hopes. Still very much in the mix. But it's games like this I've called the banana skins all year, and they have slipped up quite a few of us. Anything away at Man Utd C, West Brom B, even Sheffield Wednesday B, Brighton, Chelsea, they've all got teams that have upset the apple cart on occasions. I think teams like Jazz or the Rovers have fallen foul to it, would have been really cemented in the playoffs if it hadn't been for unnecessarily dropped points. I definitely could fall into that bracket today. Here we go. Jordi Cruyff has done a lot of that damage in those games. Don't really remember him as a striker, definitely didn't create him as a striker, but he's led the line pretty emphatically all year. A bit like what I was saying about Louis, I've got tougher games to come than this. Really needed 6 points out of 6 in this weird end of season doubleheader. My injury to Pepe Reina hasn't helped matters, to be honest. So we'll be faced with either Pavel Srnicek, Dimitri Karin or Steve Harper, which I realise is a issue of my own making. Come on. Get the ball, Michael. A draw is not good. Squad is another one that's going to have to be rotated quite a bit over the coming weeks. I've got games to catch up on. I'm actually out of Europe now, which I'm quite thankful for. No end of season Champions League drama for me. But that bloated squad, I didn't realise how bloated I'd let it get until I was weighing up the summer draft. To even get down to the the maximum of 25, I need to get rid of 11 senior players, i.e. non-inherited players, ones that I've drafted or got through the random round or acquired. Getting rid of 11 is going to be tough considering I picked them for a reason. I'd suggest ones that haven't played for Newcastle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, heading back to the free agent list relatively soon. Oh, come on. There it is. And this is why I think any kind of predictions as to who's going to finish where are kind of redundant. There's going to be so many twists and turns. And who's to say that the likes of Leeds UniTodd, with the form and momentum that they do have, can't just sneak in. We've seen what Danielle C have done in recent weeks. From absolutely nowhere to being on the cusp of automatic all of a sudden. Oh, for God's sake. I don't have the points on the board. I need to win these games, and I'm not going to. And now it does leave the door ajar to the likes of Leeds United maybe, or Aston Villa missed a bit of an opportunity the other day. AFC Wimbledon potentially in that category. Even the Tractor Bulge, if they can put together sort of 5 wins out of their last 6 maybe. The door is open, or if everyone falters, we'll just stay with the same status quo just by default. But this has been a disastrous result, considering most of my remaining games are against genuinely good teams, not this shite. At the moment, Sir Bobby's ending his career with a bit of a whimper, which is sad to see. I keep up my absolutely incredible run of barely ever winning when I'm watching, which is a problem, because I think I'm going to be highlighted quite a few times between now and the end of the season with all my extra games. Nearly got a goal of the season at the end though. See what all of those results have done to the league table. You can see, first of all, like I say, it doesn't change my situation in any way because they're all games in hand. It just keeps me in situ, and yeah, it just does nothing really. As you can see, Hart Chamberlain still only 4 points away with 4 games in hand, so that draw was no disaster. 4 points in hand on Warringham below him as well. Good win for Louis. I think he's the big winner today, although you'd have expected it against Barnsley, of course. And Leeds United 6 points off the playoffs. No real games in hand, but again, if you just get 4 wins, there's nothing to say that me, Chesh, Danielle C, the Red Wall can't fall off a cliff. I think Aston Villa had the real opportunity missed the other day. If he could have got that win and gone on to 65 points instead of 63. And then you look down to maybe the Tractor Bulge, who've only played 36 games. Is that right? Yeah. So the door is ajar. It's just that at the moment it looks like nobody wants to walk through it, so we might just end up where we are. No manager sackings today, and then back on Saturday for a pretty full assortment of games. Catch you then.